The recording now.
Okay,
so welcome to the collaboration between the University of Rhode Island and the University of Worcester. We are delighted to meet with your team today. I hope that some of the Media Education Lab students will be joining, but right now I don't see them in the call, but it's possible they will be joining us. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to you, Silke, for giving an overview of what we're going to accomplish today, and then getting started.
Okay, thank you so much, Renee. We are very happy that you're joining us, and so we wonder, how shall we organize the presentation? Could you, do you have that on your computer?
You have the capacity to share the screen yourself there. If you,
okay, right.
Navigate down to the bottom there, you'll see a share screen.
Okay.
Please feel free to share your screen.
Hold on.
It looks beautiful.
Okay, so this is actually not the presentation mode. Do you see the presentation?
I do. The presentation mode is showing the full slide in a very attractive way. And I also see, I don't know if you guys see this, but in a tiny box in the corner, I see your team.
Yeah,
okay.
We see you two in the tiny box.
Okay, perfect.
So you record us right now, or?
I am recording.
Okay, yeah, she is. Okay. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, so welcome everybody to our session. We are very happy to analyze contemporary propaganda from an international perspective with you, Renee, and maybe some of the Media Education Labsters. So why don't we all introduce each other? So if we turn to the next slide, so that we know who is here. My name is Silke Grafe, and I'm the chair of school education at the University of Würzburg in Germany. And for a long time, I've been doing research about media literacy education together with Renee Hobbs for a long time. And this is how you inspired us, Renee, to analyze and to think about propaganda. We learned about what you are doing at the beginning of this year. So we are very excited. There's somebody.
Zoe has joined us.
Oh, wonderful.
So we are just beginning with introductions.
Right. Okay, perfect. So we continue to introduce ourselves here from the Würzburg point of view, and then we are very happy to hear about your background. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, my name is Christina. I am studying math and English for teaching, and I hope to learn something about propaganda, obviously, to get a short overview about the topic.
Welcome, Christina.
Hello, my name is Lucas Gabe. I'm studying math and computer science for teaching. And I also hope to learn something about propaganda and to get a short overview.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm studying French and history, and I'm glad to participate here. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark, and I'm studying math and chemistry for teaching. And yeah, I hope to learn something about propaganda and to improve my English skills.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm going to be a teacher in physics and math. And yes, propaganda is an interesting topic and especially relevant nowadays.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm going to become a teacher too. And yeah, I'm a part of Christian's course. And yeah, here we are.
Hi, I'm Max. I'm studying English and history, and I'm also part of Christian's course. And I hope to see a different kind of propaganda than the German we see all day, or many days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hi. I'm Christian Seifer-Zapf, as you might know, and I'm a research assistant at the chair of Professor Grafe. And during this summer semester term, I'm running the course, contemporary propaganda and social networks in the context of media education and media literacy.
So you see, we have all students from our initial teacher education program who are very engaged to becoming future teachers in Germany. And yeah, that's our group here. And you might remember these two guys from the video from the ICA conference.
I have to tell you, I have just returned from Japan, where I got to present your marvelous video in Fukuoka at the International Communication Association, and it was most well received. We had a very dynamic conversation about the idea of e-portfolios. So Daniel and Christian, thank you for your good work on that project. I'm going to introduce you to Zoe Wang, who's going to be an education professor someday. Zoe, can you introduce yourself using the template that Silke has suggested?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe Wang. I am a PhD student at University of Rhode Island. And my profession, I guess, is a student. And also I'm a researcher at the Media Education Lab. I hope to, one of my research interests is contemporary culture, and of course, propaganda is one of them. And so I hope to learn, propaganda in different culture, especially in German culture.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm Renee Hobbs. I'm a teacher and a scholar and a writer. And what I hope to learn today is, I wonder how understanding of propaganda can also help us understand the theoretical concept of context.
Right.
And context shapes the meaning-making process. Context is a complicated word to teach with and about in any field, in history, in language study. Context is a complicated concept. Can critically analyzing propaganda help us understand the theoretical concept of context? And can intercultural dialogue support a deepening understanding of contemporary propaganda? So I think that's what I'm hoping we're going to get to dig into today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm very excited. Yeah, and so let's start our session by giving you just a little overview what we want to talk today about. First, we want to give a little bit insight into propaganda analysis. So we have a little, different group here. Two students thought about propaganda for a while, and the others not so much, which is not a problem at all. Maybe you are, I don't know. We learned today because you said you come across propaganda a lot of times. So I'm sure you thought about that too. So, and then we chose two examples which we would like to analyze during our session, and then think we could specialize on the context as well. I think that's a very important point, and as well on this international comparative perspective, which I am very interested in. So yeah, why just don't we start with the first content? Where is propaganda found?
Yeah. Maybe, Ms. Hobbs, you know this kind of slide because it's actually stolen from your presentation on SlideShare. Yeah, but it's very important. If we talk about, in Germany especially, about propaganda, everybody might think of a historical war context. But at first we need to consider that the propaganda concept as such is older than the World War I and World War II contexts. Actually, it was introduced by the Catholic Church in the 17th century. And yeah, but even today, this concept is still present. And yeah, and it's vivid, and we can find it in different or in all walks of life, in everyday or in our daily life. So maybe one question to everybody, to you as well, Zoe. What do you think, in which areas or fields of everyday life can we encounter propaganda? I mean, obviously we see some of these fields. Do you think of more contexts or fields where we encounter propaganda?
Obviously the internet. It's basically everywhere.
Internet, yeah. So do you have any concrete maybe examples, like a good example for or governmental propaganda in today's discussion about policy? In Germany, there's a big discussion about extremist parties like the AfD, which is a right populist party. Do you have anything that comes to your mind when you think of political propaganda, maybe?
In the U.S., one example of government propaganda is about getting all children vaccinated for against diseases.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some perception among some parents that the vaccination, the shot for children that children get when they are under 3 years old may cause autism. Now, science has shown this is not true. The vaccine does not cause autism. So, but the number of parents who are vaccinating their children has been going down. So the government has been communicating using TV commercials and news stories, reminding parents how important it is to get children vaccinated. So that's an example of what I would consider to be kind of like a beneficial propaganda that our government is using to educate the American public.
Okay, I have a question concerning propaganda in general. Is it bad? For me, if you say I've seen some propaganda, it's definitely negative. But in general, is it considered to be a negative thing? Because you're saying vaccination doesn't cause autism, so it's quite good to inform the people.
Why don't we ask the group? I mean, do you associate propaganda with something bad, or could it be something useful as well?
I think that depends on the thing you're going for. I think it depends what you're aiming for, because usually we use the term propaganda in the context of the Third Reich, and that definitely has a bad connotation. But if we think of it today, as in like vaccinations, for example, that could be something good.
Yeah, I think the problem is propaganda is about influencing and influencing people, and it always depends on what are you influence them with. So is Germany is this war the right thing, like in the Second World War, or is it you should vaccinate your kids, like in today's America? That are different things, because the one thing is this is maybe good, and the other thing is probably bad, and it depends on what are you trying to achieve with your propaganda. So I think that's the biggest problem with propaganda, if it's good or bad, because the propaganda is a mere tool for achieving something, and you can't just say it's bad because you want to achieve something with it.
Okay, so you're already pointing to the fact that the context is much more important, and the context is the thing that makes propaganda positive or negative. Is it that what you're trying to say, or?
Yeah, I think that's what I want to get through.
So, okay, that was a good estimation and a good clue, because in the next slide we'll approach some definitions of propaganda, and these definitions contain aspects that you already mentioned. For instance, you said that propaganda wants to persuade or to influence people to how they should think and how they should behave. So, for example, if you look at the definition of Taylor in 2003, it says essentially propaganda is really no more than communication, the communication of ideas designed to persuade people to think and behave in a desired way. So I think, for example, this definition contains a lot of aspects that you already mentioned. Maybe everybody can have a look on its own on the other two definitions, and maybe we can figure out some aspects that all these definitions have in common. Do you come across some words or phrases that you see that every definition has in common? if you look at these three definitions?
I think it's all about communication, because it's in all three definitions, and a lot more we already read. And I think communication is the most distinguishing part for propaganda.
Okay. Yes, certainly. Communication is one aspect. Do you find another thing that unites these three definitions?
It's the idea to influence people, to change their opinion, their behavior, their life concerning a point on the point the propaganda is carrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same what I wanted to talk about. Propaganda also can manipulate.
Manipulate,
and have an influence, changing our opinions.
So these two aspects are pretty central, I would say, to the idea of what propaganda is. Do you have anything to add, Renee? Or
I am paying attention to the word bias in the Wikipedia definition, and I'm looking at the other definitions going, how is the concept of bias reflected? But I think the phrase in the Moletsky 1972 piece, planned political attempts. So the concept of bias and the idea of planned political attempts says something to do with the motive of the communicator. So propaganda is different from just communication because it has something to do with the motive or the purpose of the communicator to influence. So the words bias and political make me think a little bit more about the author's purpose or the motive.
Okay, that's certainly right, I guess. And I think when you talk about the motive, it also implies that it's not necessarily the truth that is being said by an author. Or what do you say? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Actually, I'm imagining. I remember a kind of propaganda I've seen here in Würzburg. It's been about the Bundeswehr, the German army, and promoting to go to the Bundeswehr to get a job there, and it could be considered propaganda. Some people would consider it bad, some people would consider it good, or at least neutral.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Depends on the point of view. Yeah.
He's talking about an advertisement to join the army. You know, the German Bundeswehr. It's the army.
Right. Sure. So some people would see that as harmful propaganda that is militarizing young people, and other people would see that as very beneficial, providing a public service.
Okay. So yeah, you already introduced an example of our country, like when you said that you found an example of the army in Würzburg. Maybe, I don't know if Zoe has an example from an American context, or Renee.
And since Zoe is now in Beijing, on
I just returned to visit, right? Yeah.
Zoe, when you came back, and she has not been back to Beijing to visit her family for 2 years. So
oh my God.
When she came off the airplane, I bet you noticed some propaganda, Zoe. What is it?
Some propaganda that I noticed. The most recently is one of the international expo that's been held here. So they're just displaying what do you call, signs, or those just expressing the how Chinese culture, Chinese government promoting this kind of international opening the doors to the world, and etc. And yeah, that's one of the things that I have noticed most recently. And also from our conversation, I have been thinking about the differences between education and propaganda. I remember one of the conversations that we had with Renee before, and also one interesting point is that you listed one area that propaganda lies in is education, and it reminds me of how my kind of education before I went to the United States. For example, our political science was designed to introduce certain things in our curriculums. For example, we focus very much on the contemporary Chinese economic system and how that relates to our political system. And we also introduce a lot of Marxism or dialectics, those kind of philosophical theories. So I think that's pretty much a propaganda, because it pretty much focuses on those areas that the government want to promote, want their students to learn more about, rather than just kind of lay out so many different kind of philosophical thinking or systems in the world. Yeah.
So concluding to what you said, then can we say in Germany, when our government wants us to be democratical, aware persons, is it also some kind of propaganda then? What is behind this kind of education? I mean, I don't know. It's just a question, and I have no answer for it. So it's.
It definitely is, I think, because we are influenced by it to think that we have to be democratic. We like democracy. It's something positive, and that influences our perspective.
Okay. I think that was a good point. But one thing come to my mind was the definition of democracy. Is that some sort of propaganda? Because I think when I think democracy, I thought about when I was learning, political science when I was in high school or middle school. I was studying China, and those kind of democracy was defined by maybe the Communist Party. And when I go to the United States and I experienced or heard, a different kind of democracy, and we also learned, democracy is different in different ideology. So is that the definition of democracy is kind of propaganda in different cultures?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And basically, it's hard to find an answer for it, isn't it? At least to me.
It's again about context, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about context again. So
I would just like to ask the group very briefly. So we learned that propaganda could be negative or positive, and we learned in which areas it could be found: journalism, advertising, government, education, entertainment, and advocacy. Could you think of any prominent examples we have in the German context, or maybe the international context as well, which come to your mind? Any propaganda examples? You said one from the army, you mentioned one. Could you think of other examples?
I would call it advertising, but it's a little bit strange. It's about using condoms, and because of HIV. And there are many advertisings in the streets right now here in Würzburg. This is more a kind of I would call it a little bit more education than propaganda, but it's not easy to find the difference between it.
But that's beneficial propaganda, right? Or advertising.
I think that's exactly the point, that education in some way is propaganda, because we always have to we always transport what we believe, and we want others to at least consider it positive. And so I think we do propaganda on our own without noticing it.
I think for a long time in history, the church is also doing a kind of propaganda. Well, we can see it in the streets only while we're shopping. So some groups are standing on the boulevard and they're making propaganda for their sects,
for their sects, yeah.
For their sects, yeah. So, for example, Wachturm from the
Zeugen
Jehovah, and they're coming to your doors at your house and talking about, we're standing for these things, and it's hard, I think.
What's the name of this Christian group?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, we have them in our country too. Yes, yes. They knock on your door and they give you a pamphlet and they tell you about their religious beliefs. Yes, we do. We also have a radical Christian. Sometimes they are Protestants, sometimes they are Catholics, but they are anti-abortion, and they stand outside a women's health clinic with horrible pictures of mangled fetuses and try to persuade women not to have an abortion. And this is a very painful and uncomfortable form of propaganda. So it's interesting, it's motivated by religion, and religion is of course like a very fundamental form of propaganda in a way.
I think they're not only coming to our doors at home, they're also in public. So for another example, we can see Scientology. They got a lot of representatives who are known. I don't know, Tom Cruise or...
That's the American example, right?
There are Scientologists in Germany?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
too,
Yes.
yeah. But I think it's not
it's not so popular.
As in the US, yeah.
But you know, the Bavarian government is very aware of that problem, because everybody who works at Bavarian University has to sign that they are not engaged with Scientology, you know. Otherwise, you're not hired by our Würzburg University.
Fascinating.
Okay, I remembered another example of propaganda or education. It's difficult. If you want to buy cigarettes in Germany, on the front there are, it says smoking kills. If you smoke, you can get lung cancer, you can get whatever. And I think in some other European countries, there are even some pictures and
Don't
pretty...
they want to introduce that here?
Yeah,
I think so.
I was talking about it.
Yes, they're talking about introducing pretty ugly pictures of the lungs of smokers and the health problems, and the teeth of smokers and the health problems smoking leads to.
Wow. So can I ask you a question? In your opinion, is this beneficial or harmful propaganda?
I think it's beneficial propaganda.
That depends on the point of view, I would say, because most of the smokers think it's idiotic because it's their choice to smoke. And so this would be, again, propaganda to, I don't know, to manipulating them into stop smoking, which is, their free choice to make. So, they would maybe they would say this is bad propaganda or harmful propaganda, and others who are against smoking would say this is beneficial propaganda or something like that.
But it's not entirely there. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's not entirely their choice, since the health system of Germany is basically paying for them if they get, for example, lung cancer. So I think it's in a kind of way it's justified to inform the people, or to at least to tell the people you'll get sick, you'll get very sick, and viewing that I have to pay as a non-smoker, I think it's okay.
So you want to add something?
That's a fascinating observation that forces us to think about propaganda in relation to the individual and the society, right? Both. We have to look both at the rights of the individual and we have to look at the rights of the society.
Okay, you wanted to add something.
Yeah,
so.
I only wanted to add that for a while I've seen a documentary about smoking and these forms of coloring the lungs if you smoke a lot, and it's not right. It doesn't color the lungs. So only smoking doesn't color the lungs.
They're actually saying that it does, but it's not true.
Yeah, it's a gag. So, well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, also I'm asking, isn't it enough to tell the people on the packages that smoking kills, that smoking does this and this and this, and there are these substances that could kill you in the cigarettes, and where's the point of putting pictures of your teeth that are decaying or your lungs in there? Because I think that's a step too far, actually. But yeah, that's different opinion maybe.
I think it's. I think if you only write something down, you won't touch their emotions and their thinking that much, because if you're smoking, you already heard about everything which is written down there, but maybe you haven't seen those pictures, because I don't think if I start smoking, I'll go to the laptop and look up what's happening to me when I'm smoking and look some pictures up. So it's something new, something which is more offending, more influencing.
Yeah, but why do you want?
Great.
Okay.
I think that's a really, really great point. That's a really, really great point. Propaganda wants to bypass critical thinking and get right to your emotion, right? That's why pictures are so effective, right? Because they bypass your rational brain and they go right to your feelings or your emotions. So I think one of the things we could use to spot propaganda is how is it using color, images, and to activate people's feelings.
I think I have another example for that. I don't know if you remember during that there are so many refugees coming here, and there was, I think it was last summer, when they had a picture printed of a dead boy in Turkey on the beach or something. It went all over the world, I think.
Yep.
And they used it. That influences us, I think, on thinking, oh, those poor kids, they are dead now because maybe because of us, because we didn't want to take them. And so that's, I think, a pretty good example in the media, how media also uses propaganda, but suggesting that it's neutral.
Mm-hmm. So right, you gave a good hint, because that's what we want to approach as well, how media and media literacy can be helpful, or how media in general behaves with regard to propaganda. You said, right, propaganda uses media as some kind of instrument, right? When they portrayed this poor boy dead on the beach. But there are other ways in which media can use or abuse propaganda and vice versa. So, yeah.
Yeah, and these are listed, Renee. These are your points. You draw a connection between media literacy and propaganda. So I would just like to briefly point out and explain the connection between media literacy and propaganda before we introduce the steps to analyze our two examples. So, and some of these points we already had in the discussion, right? Messages have economic and political power, and this is, of course, one very important point in dealing with media literacy education and to make students competent in analyzing the conditions of media production and media dissemination. as well as people interpret messages differently. I think we had this in our discussion and had the different points of view on the smoking advertisement, for example. Then messages, of course, are representations of reality, and each of the producers chooses which representation they want to have, as well as using different codes and conventions to convey the messages. And these are to influence attitudes and behavior in all different kind of ways. So introducing the next steps, how to analyze propaganda, we would like to analyze 2 examples Christian chooses from different contexts.
Yeah, so we thought of an analyzing pattern which could be helpful for your interpretation or your approach towards propaganda. Basically, it starts with an overall description of what can be seen, what is depicted, and then you should analyze it by focusing on maybe some techniques which are used, some rhetorical questions, and in the third step, we'll do an evaluation and a rating as well, and we'll use Renee Hobbs' homepage, Mind Over Media, where I created a classroom with these 2 examples. And yeah, so maybe we'll come to the first point, description. You can always ask yourself what is depicted. Yeah, I mean, you can focus on the setting. You can have people in the center of your picture or your video. You can have objects which are quite prominent, and maybe you should also focus on how they relate to each other. What is in the center of your depiction, maybe what is in the focus, maybe some aspects like this are also important to consider. And
Renee, you know, we thought it could be an important first step before going into analysis, because when you're not, you know, an expert in analyzing digital media, it just could be very helpful to really just first describe what you see, so that you have really a good basis for the analysis, especially if, you know, digital videos, they implement so many different things in such a short time. When I remember the videos you showed us in Belgium about the advertisement, we thought this could be, you know, like a first step, like a pre-step before going into analysis or evaluation.
I think it's a really great point, Silke. And I also think that when we describe, think about metacognitively what happens when we describe. So
right.
For younger students, we might say, now you must complete the sentence. I see, blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah. I notice, blah, blah, blah. So it's actually heightening awareness of observation and detail as
right.
a cognitive part of the interpretation process. I think this is a fantastic addition to the pedagogy, Silke.
Right, especially when we are in high school, you know, or in other school forms. I mean, for us it's easier, but for younger students could be maybe a helpful first step. But then, of course, we refer to your point of analysis, use of techniques.
Yeah, and you pointed out 4, I think, pretty interesting techniques. We also, within our seminar context, we also had a look at the IPA analysis criteria, which were not that favorable for us because they are kind of complicated and old-fashioned, I guess, or I think. So these 4 points make more sense for active usage or active usage. So the first one is activate strong emotions like hate, fear, or sympathy as well. So you don't have exclusively negative emotions, which can be evoked by propaganda, but you also have positive emotions like joy or pleasure, which can be evoked by propaganda, I would say. Then another thing is that many propaganda examples respond to audience needs and values. So they present messages that are appealing to a specific group within society. Yeah, for instance, if we talk about smoking, the smoking advertisement, you can say that particularly smokers are addressed, but also non-smokers because they maybe feel offended by smokers or vice versa. Yeah. The third technique that can be used is the simplifying of information and ideas. And that picks up the thing we said at the beginning, that propaganda does not necessarily have to be true. So the information presented can always contain half-truths or lies as well. So when sometimes information are just given in an incomplete way. And the last thing that can be used as a technique is clearly that they sometimes attack opponents. For instance, they can call the credibility or legitimacy of opponents into question. Yeah. So they discredit others, whereas in many cases they heighten themselves, like on a scale, like they bring themselves on a higher position socially. Okay, so you need with these four aspects in your mind, we can go to the next step. We come to context. When we think of context, yeah, we need to think of the nature of the message. Okay, like what is basically the idea that is being expressed behind the whole thing. Then we come to techniques, which we already mentioned a slide earlier, but also the means of communication and the format is important. So like, is it posted via Facebook or via Twitter, or is it just an uploaded video on YouTube, for instance? And then as well, which is closely connected, is the environment aspect. Like, is it as well as time? For instance, if it's posted 1 year after something went viral, for instance, then it's has a different environment in it, like if it's posted immediately after the first time it came up. And the last point is audience receptivity, which we already hinted to that point, because we figured out that the receptivity differs from your own point of view. Some people might say, this piece of propaganda is good for me, it's beneficial, and others might say it's harmful, it causes damage. Okay, so these are all aspects that we need to consider when we analyze a propaganda piece in depth. The third thing, and now we come to your homepage, it's the rating. So we figured out that depending on our own point of view, we rate examples differently, like from beneficial, on a scale from beneficial to harmful. And therefore, I created a classroom on your homepage, which has the following URL. And I also put the 2 videos we're going to example right now, going to analyze right now, on this classroom homepage. So maybe we'll watch the videos from this from your homepage, and afterwards we're going to do a reflection when we talk about it and discuss these examples within this cross-cultural group. Is it okay for you? Okay, so do you have access to these links?
I am just pulling it up right now, and I see 2 artifacts. One looks like a Simpsons, and the other looks like, oh, my favorite, Erdoğan. Good choices, Christian. Good choices.
Okay, so the first one is actually in German, but it has English subtitles. So you need to choose the options button on down, and there's you can add the English subtitles. Okay.
So typically with Zoom, you know, this video conferencing system that we're using, Zoom can accommodate up to 50 people, right? So we found though that the uptake of video is like, the lag, it can be annoying. So I'd like to suggest that we mute our microphones on the Zoom, our video conferencing system. We watch, and then we come back to do the activity. What do you think, Christian? Because it's better than watching through the Zoom.
Okay, we can do that. No problem. So I'll start to mute our microphone right now. So. So we are back from muting. Are you done with watching the video? Yeah? Okay. So did you get the
Wow. I am dying to hear what your understanding of this video is. But first, we describe.
That's right. So I guess we developed that all together, right? Because, you know, last time, Renee, we had like a little discussion, US discussion, German discussion, but maybe this time we just develop it together, right? Okay.
So we did the workout in Hong Kong as well. The video.
Zoe is back.
I'm sorry. Yeah, did it work out? Okay, perfect. So then it's up to you.
Yes, thank you.
So I'll begin. I saw clips of news footage of the president of Turkey. I saw clips of news footage accompanied by a humorous song which criticizes him.
Yeah.
And the point is that it's a well-known song in Germany. It's based on a well-known song in Germany. So that it's
Only the melody.
the melody and the chorus.
Really?
A little bit. It's a little bit changed, the chorus, and I think it's this is analysis. So I heard the melody of a well-known song in Germany.
Can you give a
Can I
little bit
ask you
more
a question? Can I ask you a question about that? The original song, what is it referring to?
Anytime, any place, anywhere, from Nena, who also wrote 99 Air Balloons or 99 Luftballons. She performed the original song.
Thank you.
But it's nothing about politics.
No, yeah.
She's like a pop singer, you know. When I was young, in my teenage years, Nena, she was very popular. I don't know, have you ever heard of her in the United States? She translated few songs which were popular, but it was in the 90s, end of the 90s.
Yes, she performed with Kim Wilde.
Got it. Thank you for sharing. I noticed that the author of this video used some sound effects to intensify my emotional reaction. Like when Erdoğan shakes the ballot box, there's a sound effect.
Right.
I noticed this.
Okay.
So when punching the woman, there was a punch sound.
Right. The demonstrator.
I noticed during the during the sequence where we were seeing the women protesters being attacked, I noticed that was one of the few times we heard the voice of a German news broadcaster explaining the demonstrations in Turkey, I believe.
Yeah.
It's been the Tagesschau, one of the main German television news sources.
So you recognize that as kind of the official German news. I didn't know who that woman's voice was, but you recognized it as like the official news.
Yeah, definitely, I would say also. Yeah, so we're familiar with voice. Yeah. Okay. So anything else that comes to your mind in terms of a description of this piece?
I'm not sure if it's personal, but the video is funny. It makes fun of Erdogan, or at least for me, it's funny. And yes, that's obviously a kind of way of making him seem bad, look bad.
I want to. That's a great point, and I want to elaborate on that because it makes fun of his appearance, like his neck is thick, and it shows him in embarrassing moments, like when he has the wig on his head, right? So it's and we would consider that to be kind of sophomoric humor, you know, sort of superficial, but at the same time, it offers a real critique of his policies. So the piece has both a superficial and a deep critique, I think.
Yeah. Maybe did you get the context which were addressed? You said that these news clips were ripped together and a new video was created. And did you get the single context which were brought up within these news pieces? Like, for instance, you said that women were slipped one time within the video. What other contexts were brought up within the video with regard to his policy?
The refugee tent situation. Europe has given him millions of euros to build a refugee tent, and then there's like a animation kind of plopping down on the tent. You know, here's the kind of here's what the refugees get for all that money.
Right, and the money came from I guess
Germany.
Yeah. So this is definitely another context. What about? Can you think of another context which was mentioned?
So we are doing analysis right now.
Yeah, we switched to analysis. I'm sorry.
How we moved right to that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just to make it clear, because it's always, easy to mix it.
I remember a scene where Erdogan and Angela Merkel were together in a room, and she, first of all, she sat down, but then she stood up again to shake with him hands. And at the same time, the text was, he's got you in his hand. So it was, it was a great connection, the text and the video clip.
Another point or another part of the video shows, no, at first it says he doesn't like the Kurds, and then there's a video footage of bombing them. And obviously there's kind of difference between not liking someone and obviously killing or at least attacking someone.
I think here's maybe something we should notice, because it only showed a video of a bomb falling down. You don't have any hint that it's the Kurds.
Right.
So we interpret it with the text.
Right. And the image that follows just after that is of ISIS, right?
Yeah.
And the song lyric says something like, he'd rather bomb the Kurds and make friends with his friends, his Muslim brothers in ISIS, which I thought was a very bold claim, right? I don't know if it's true or not that Erdogan supports ISIS. I don't think he does, but the link was made visually, right?
I wanted to say in this parody, he's not taken serious in a way of dark humor. He's presented that he's not standing for democracy. He's against rights for women. Yeah.
Or the right of free speech, because there's a part of the video where they claim or where they say that he put a journalist in prison who wrote a book about him, or they raided one TV station or something like that, or no, it was a newspaper or something like that, which was critical, or they put down demonstrations. Yeah, that were.
Did you recognize some of the images that were in that parody were unfamiliar to me, because the US does not get very much news about Turkey, right? So one question I had for you was, of the news clips that you saw, which ones were familiar, or which ones did you remember seeing or learning about in the original context that are now kind of presented in this parody? Had you seen any of those images before watching this music video?
I heard that he raided a newspaper which was critical, and it was all over the news, or at least it was in the news, because it was one of the last remaining not pro Erdogan newspapers, and he, I don't know the right word, but he sent police there to confiscate all of their stuff and things like this. So this is one of the news stories I heard before I saw this clip.
A short question. Your question, was it about the information which was in the video clips, or the video clips itself? So did we remember the pictures and the video clips, or did we remember the information which they offered?
I'm interested in both of those questions.
Okay, because the information of many of the information I think were quite viral here in the media, but I don't remember any of the video clips, as far as I know.
I remember, I don't know if it's the same video clip, but I remember some scenes from demonstrations that were shut down by the police.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the image of the water cannon being used on the protesters, right? That scene, I think I have seen in American TV. I started wondering, those video images, are they from Turkish TV or German TV? Because I lack context. I thought maybe those images were from German TV.
Yeah,
I think they are from German TV, because I don't think there is so much information about those demonstrations and those events which are against democracy and in the media in Turkey. So I don't think they are in the Turkish media.
Or from the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this video, this parody, caused a huge aftermath because the German ambassador was called to go to Erdogan himself and
Kidding me?
and had to say something about this video. It caused a huge aftermath.
How was this video? How did you encounter it? Was it that's a question in that context thing. How did you first learn about this video? Was it shared through Facebook? Was it broadcast on German TV?
It was broadcasted on German TV and uploaded on YouTube, I think, and then it gone viral in a few days. And I think I saw it in the evening when this was first broadcasted.
So maybe I'll put bring some context into it. The video was produced by a small German TV station, and basically nobody actually knew that TV show before. And by now it was published on YouTube, and now it has nearly 10 million clicks. So it's kind of prominent.
Because of the discussion afterwards, because of the reaction of Erdogan and of Turkey, everyone wanted to know what was it about, and so everyone saw it. Not everyone, but many people saw it, and
For me too, I've read a newspaper article about the ambassador having to meet, I think not Erdogan at first, but just some people at the Turkish government. And yes, that only because Erdogan actually told the ambassador to come, the video got viral.
Mm-hmm.
It's an effect called Streisand effect.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, might be true. Yeah, might be a good argument.
By contrast, the video has not received much visibility in the United States. Had you ever seen that video before? Because Zoe is very plugged into social media. Maybe you had seen it. Had you seen that before, Zoe, or was this your first time?
I have not seen this before, but I think either you or Yangti brought it to me. That's why I think that's why. Yeah, not on YouTube or anything. No.
I feel very excited to share it. And I think this question of the reflection question that's now on our screen, the reflection question says, would you use the example for analysis of contemporary propaganda in your teaching, or what other examples you'd use? I'm thinking about, every time I use social media, I make a decision, will I share this with my network? Why or why not? And so I am now reflecting, would I share this video with my social network? And I think I would, but I know that I have many Turks in my social network, right? Our friend Saeed at most, you know, at the highest level, right? He's a colleague at the Media Education Lab. I wouldn't want my sharing of this video to get Saeed in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that Turkish academics have been jailed. I know that Turkish academics who speak out against Erdogan have been fired or let go of their posts. So in my decision about using this example, I would definitely have to weigh what I think might be some risks to sharing.
Yeah.
Would you use this example in your future classroom?
I don't know.
I think probably for 12th class students, that might be a good example for to talk about propaganda and also criticism. But I think for younger students, it's not very suitable because you can't reflect it critically.
But since the video got viral, I guess probably quite a lot of younger students have seen it. And I think it's better to talk about it in the lesson than only let them see it and not talk about it. So probably I wouldn't show it very young kids because they are definitely young and probably they haven't seen it. But starting at maybe 8th grade, so the students are 15, I guess. I think they're old enough, and it's not as if the information shown in the video is information they couldn't get, and they probably seen quite a lot since Turkey is a topic in German news.
Yeah, I think I would use it, this video, to show a reaction or an answer to propaganda that Erdogan uses. Yeah, you know, yeah. It's a reaction.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I think if I would think of using this as an example of analysis of propaganda. I would, but following the other question, what other examples would you use? I might choose something that is from maybe an opposite side of this kind of proposition. So kind of maybe let the students to see the contrast, or, you know, to think about who created this and what message this one delivers versus who created that and what message do they, you know, want to deliver, and why there's differences, and, you know, and you know, what sense they makes. So if I would use that, I would use it in that kind of way, I think. Just kind of to, you know, open up the conversation.
Okay.
I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I think it's correct. But what the video shows is an opinion I share, and an opinion, or a lot of the things that the video is criticizing are things that have to be criticized in Turkey, and showing in propaganda, for example, from Erdogan's side, is difficult, especially since, in contrast to this video from Extra 3 we've seen now, the propaganda from Erdogan probably isn't neutral and isn't based on sources that are true.
I'm wondering about the neutrality of this video. Of course, there are facts in it, and there are informations in it shown so that you get to know it. But there's it still is propaganda. There still is an emotional affection, emotional influence on you. And if you, I think it's funny because there are videos, there are reactions of Erdogan in the news. There have been reactions of Erdogan in the news, trying to make fun of the people who made this video, who, as far as I remember, I'm not pretty sure if what's this video or the Böhmermann crisis, but there have been interviewers here in Germany to fetch information from the maker of the videos, and were
sent by Erdogan.
Sent by, I'm not sure if it was Erdogan, but of Turkish media.
Okay.
And they were asking of statements, and went to the doors of them and to the houses, and were sent back, of course. And there was so there have been videos upon this topic, also from the Turkish side. So there is a possibility to show both sides, but yeah, the neutrality of the Turkish side is more questionable than the neutrality of this video.
I can add something to this video because you've shared it to me. It's been about this video we watched now, and it showed people, journalists with video cameras from a Turkish TV show, and they stood in front of the ZDF, the head of the producer of this show, and they wanted to get to the people who made this, but they couldn't get in because the security said no, you can't access here. And there's been, I don't want to call it interview, there's been an active and aggressive discussion between security and another man from the German TV show, no, not TV show, but producer, and the Turkish journalists. And on one side, the German guys were quite objective and calm, and the Turkish guy was very, very aggressive and made things up, and yes, wasn't a nice person.
So this is a great example of like here. So part of the challenge of our interpretation here is that Germany has a very rich history of protecting freedom of expression, and Turkey does not have a very rich history of freedom of expression, right? And even founding back to the founding of the Turkish Republic, right? So I think it's so fascinating because when I hear that story that you just told, it makes me think, you know what? In my culture, we have a big, strong tradition of respect for freedom of expression, but not everyone in the world shares that value, right? And what must it be like? I would believe that this video would be very, very offensive to some Turks who would feel completely like it was a violent action against their beloved leader. And I want to be able to understand how that interpretation could be possible.
Because you said your American culture has a quite open, even more open view on expression of speech in Germany. Do you know about the Böhmermann incident? Okay.
Tell me more.
After this video clip, another German TV host, satirics, yes, made a poem called Schmähgedicht, what is the translation of Smegedy? It made fun of Erdogan, but not in a positive way, but
exclusively negative.
yes, exclusively.
So the aim was basically, the person who did this was called Jan Böhmermann. And the whole incident was later on called Böhmermann affair or incident, because this poem was later on forbidden by the German government, because Erdogan claimed, or he was forcing the government to investigate this case, because it was exclusively negative and has nothing to do, according to his interpretation, it has nothing to do with satire. It was only offensive, and it was to him it was a clear offense.
And vulgar.
The point is that
getting prosecuted under that obscure law. Is this the guy who's getting prosecuted under this law that Angela Merkel actually agreed to have him prosecuted? Is that?
Yes,
you're right.
Yes.
and
I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel a few weeks ago.
Got it.
and the point of the poem and that was that it was set in another context, because Böhmermann said was like talking to Erdogan, so he was saying, trying to tell him what is allowed and what is not allowed, and he definitely said this kind of poem would be not allowed. And then he started the poem, and everyone in the audience laughed about it, because there were really informations in it which were definitely not true. Should I give an example?
That he fucks goats.
That he fucks goats, for example, and many other things like that. So but he definitely said this kind of poem is not allowed.
Allowed where?
In Germany.
Yeah. So in German law, you can't say things like that are not based on true information, and that are obviously aggressive against the personality of a person, in this case Erdogan. They are not allowed.
Can you help me understand? Can you compare and contrast how the Erdogan song and the Erdogan poem are similar and different? So why is one legal in Germany and the other is illegal in Germany?
Because the intentions are actually different. The song is more about poking fun or laying the finger where it hurts, where the problems in Turkey are. There's truth in it. There are problems regarding freedom of speech, regarding his intentions with the courts and ISIS. And Böhmermann's poem was the only purpose for it was to beleidigen,
to violate,
to insult Erdogan, and it was the only purpose. And he made it pretty clear: this poem is only to insult you. But it was kind of in this direction, actually.
Well, I don't think it. As we said, the context of this poem from Jan Böhmermann is very difficult, and we don't know if it's illegal. There's a discussion, and he has to go in front of a court. Yes, thanks. And it's not sure if it's illegal. Difficult discussion in Germany.
Wow.
Well, didn't he win a prize? No?
Yes.
For a video he made last year.
Okay.
So, but the video is not online anymore.
Yeah.
So it has been in the Mediathek.
Damned.
It has been there, but they had to put it down again to don't know.
So the video is removed right now.
It
So
had been removed.
it's not available on YouTube anymore. You can only.
Are you saying the song that we
No,
just-
the poem. The poem.
poem is not. The poem has been taken off the internet.
Yeah,
Well,
and the song was only the first. So you can say that the song was sparked the poem. So the song was the first piece. The second piece was the poem, and now the situation is more or less it escalated because yeah.
Well, I feel like, so Silke, what's really interesting about analyzing this artifact and this conversation is that I have learned an awful lot about Germany and Turkey through looking at this, through starting with this example. So now I have a lot of questions. I have more questions now than I had before about understanding the principles of freedom of expression in Germany and the limits of freedom of expression. I have now questions about the two different approaches used by the two different media organizations, right? I now am fascinated about what the outcome of the court case will be. How will the judges decide? And I want to know what you guys think. Can you tell me from your point of view? Now we're comparing two pieces of propaganda, the funny song and the poem. Can you guys say to me, are those beneficial or harmful propagandas? And I'd love to hear everybody around the table. What do you think about those two pieces? Are they beneficial or harmful propaganda?
I think the first video we watched is definitely beneficial propaganda because it makes fun of topics that definitely has to be talked about. And if a video is funny and if the way the information is portrayed is funny, more people watch it, and the information it portrays is very, very important. Concerning the poem from Jan Böhmermann, it's difficult. I think in the context he made the poem and he told the poem in television. I think it's okay. It's not a beautiful piece of art, at least not the poem itself, but in the context and viewing how this whole thing exploded and how Erdoğan and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and everyone reacted to this poem. It's pretty cool, but it's difficult. I wouldn't want to call it beneficial, but it's not bad either.
So you would say
because it's creating dialogue and
Yes.
conversation among ordinary people, right? And that's good, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, yes.
What are other opinions?
My opinion to the song is it's good because it doesn't take itself too seriously. So if you are interested in the topics discussed, you can just say, yeah, I informed myself with this video, because everybody would think you're an idiot because this video is clearly there to make fun or to entertain somebody. So if you're interested in the things that are mentioned in this video, you have to inform yourself. But it mentions the topics that are problematic in today's in Turkey today. So I think it's a good piece of propaganda because you have to do the work yourself. You have to inform yourself. Actually, you can't just say I watched this video, now I'm informed with a biased opinion. You have to make yourself your own opinion.
what about the poem?
Yeah, I think this is pretty difficult, but I think Böhmermann intended it to be pretty difficult to interpret, and that you actually aimed for that, so that nobody actually can say, yeah, this is bad because, or this is good because. I think he just wanted to try out to see how far he can go, and he wanted to show Erdoğan where. I think that's only my opinion. I think he wanted to show Erdoğan how far somebody can go, and when he got too far. And with the reaction now, with the court process, I think everybody realized this is really maybe half a step too far. And maybe you can do it, maybe you can't, but it gets complicated at this point. So. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to think about the poem. To be true, I never really watched it. I'm not the biggest fan of Böhmermann. But yeah, it was all over the news. So at some point, everybody was informed about it.
Okay.
3 more opinions, just very short.
The first one, the video with a song, I liked it. It's kind of funny and it informs in a simple way about Erdogan's politics. I think the other thing is about the video, there are a lot of Turkish people in Germany and a lot of people Turkish, of these Turkish people too, they believe the Turkish propaganda, or they believe the Turkish news. They say that the German news, that this is the propaganda. So they're saying, hey, how can you make fun of our president? How can you do that? The things that you say, they are not true. So no, they don't like it. So they get very aggressive about it. That's what he says. No? The other thing, the poem, I think it wasn't right that he said it on the TV, because I think it's not an excuse to say, hey, listen now, the thing that I do now is not allowed in German law, and do it. No, it's the same thing like a father, a kid, and a policeman on the street. And the father says to the kid, listen, young boy, no, it's not allowed to beleidigen?
Insult.
It's not allowed to insult the policeman. You can't say you're a fucking idiot or something like that and say it then. So, no, it's a Straftat. Illegal. It's illegal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, this is, the other thing is, he, with the poem, he insulted?
Yeah,
He insulted the Turkish president. And to insult another head of another state, political head of a state, is not allowed in German law. So,
Just 2 very brief.
Okay. So to the song, first of all, I think it is propaganda, but I think it's a beneficial one because it's pointing to the to problems, and to the poem. It got 2 sides, I think, because I'm trying to say it short, because it's. I didn't like that it was short after the song, so the song got forgotten. The discussion was all about the poem afterwards. So the song really went out of mind of the most people. And the good thing about it is, I think, that. One moment. That there is normally when you get a song, the interpretation is just a personal thing. You see it and you try to a song or a poem, and you try to find out what it is about. But this time the show got on a higher level. So now the court has to decide a thing normally students decide in the school when they read a poem. So it is they have to find they need an interpretation, but the interpretation is a personal thing. So it is it's giving it a higher level.
Last point of view.
Yeah, it's already said what I'm thinking about, but I wanted to mention that the poem creates discussion. This is my favorite point of it. And it's also a creative way in our modern times to argument. But I think it's too aggressive and a kind of calumny. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody for sharing their opinions. So, you know, see, Renee, this is a very rich example, which really, you know, has had a lot of context, and it really, the 2 examples, they really made German, the whole, inspired the whole of Germany to discuss you know, how is satire defined? How far can it go about the freedom of speech? So I think, yeah, there's a lot of more to discuss about that example. And if we, with time, looking at our timetable, if we come back to your first question about context and what consequences we can draw if we want to share, you know, examples on mind over media, and now we experience how examples are, you know, received, having context or not having context. What do you think are the consequences from our video discussion with regard to context and with regard to internationalize your mind over media platform?
First of all, I think one of the things that I really appreciated about what we did was we really fully contextualized that music video.
Right.
And so what a great choice of artifact you made, Christian. Thank you for making this good choice. Because obviously this is a very timely and important. I think, Silke, your point about helping us understand satire and the person sitting next to you, what's his name?
Mine?
Yeah.
Lucas.
Lucas's really interesting point about how now what's happening in Germany is that the idea of meaning and interpretation is becoming, it's a political issue, right? And I feel like that's a big insight for young people, high school students, college undergraduates. That's a big insight that interpretation matters. So what happened in the last hour for me is that something I originally interpreted as a funny video has gotten layers of complexity, so that I now understand at a point that next to you. What's her name? No, her name. With the
my name is Anna.
Anna, really, Anna, you made a really great point, which is maybe using media artifacts like this is the way we communicate now, right? Is the way we develop arguments. So I'm thinking about how I can kind of now go back to my own culture and think, man, almost all of our political discourse about Trump is happening through memes and through stuff we share on Facebook, and not through the news media, but through the entertainment media.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's making me think in a new way about entertainment media as a source of political information and political propaganda.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Trump is a great example from your context, right? I mean, of course, it's here in the news everywhere too, so we learn about a lot about the United States in that context. But it would be interesting, like having a second video conference and analyzing some, you know, examples. I mean, we chose one example, but I think we don't have really time for it. But it would be interesting to have a second discussion on, yeah, some example from your context, right?
Yes. I think about how one of the things, if I were to imagine a follow-up session for this, right, I believe that we could generate a list of questions that now what do you want to learn more about? Maybe we could try to do that. Zoe, after participating in today's conference, if you could ask more questions or learn more, what questions does the discussion of this music video raise for you? What questions might you want to learn more about Germany and the politics of what's going on in Turkey and its relationship with Germany right now? What questions does this video raise for you?
I'm starting to be curious about, you know, what is the historical relationship between Germany and Turkey, and what are the development over years, and how are the young people are thinking about each other and each other's country. And how they look at them, and also how they look at themselves. Yeah, it's very interesting to me.
Similarly, I am curious about so I understand there are many Turks who live in Germany and people of Turkish descent. How did they respond to this controversy, and how was their voices and perspective represented in the German media? So I might be interested in reading the work of bloggers or other people who are representing that minority group in Germany. I kind of want to know, now that the obscure law, is this a good law? I want to know what the German people think about this law, that it's illegal to criticize foreign presidents. Do you want to keep that law, or do you want to change that law?
Was it a real question or just a rhetorical question?
We are generating questions that this conversation has inspired. So
right.
Has inspired our intellectual curiosity. We want to further learn about German-Turkish relations because of this discussion.
Do you have any questions in your mind? Would force another in-depth context discussion, or would spark another discussion about contextual issues.
Yeah, I would like to see an example of the Turkish media, how they Scheiße, Mann, was ist das ein Bericht? How they tell report, thank you. How they report about the thing with the women, that they got beaten by the police. What do they say to complain them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I'd like to know about. I'd like to know Turkish people because to get to know their way of thinking. So why do they think this is our beloved leader? So how do they identify themselves with their countries, with their leader, with themselves? Because this is something completely new to me, because I would never identify myself with the beloved leader, Angela Merkel.
Well, they're grown up in another culture.
Yeah, for sure. But
another religion.
Yeah, but
that's the point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Any more questions which come to your mind to discuss further?
Mark, I think Mark's microphone is not working, but Mark has shared, if you guys open up the chat, I'll read it out loud. Mark says, I am wondering.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Mark.
Coming through? Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi. Sorry, I'm so late.
Mark Davis, a doctoral student at the University of Rhode Island. Mark, can you share your question with us?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I apologize for coming in late, but I watched the video in the background while I was working the sound. What I wrote in the chat was that I was wondering how many of us are willing to take personal risks to our own safety to even have this discourse. And what I bring that up because I watched the video and I saw, as you mentioned, like the International Women's Day demonstrations where people were being beaten. And recently in Providence this past week, here in Rhode Island, we had Pride Fest, which is for the LGBT community. And of course, you probably heard the news of what happened in Orlando, Florida. And there was a lot of concern about the safety of everyone at this event. And I brought my family, and I didn't think that really anything of it. I just assumed we were there standing for the freedom of everyone. And I didn't really think about how much risk people take elsewhere. And I'm not so close-minded to international need, but I haven't seen that level of reaction from people, and the safety piece really came into play for me this weekend. So I just wonder about the the personal safety piece. It's nice to have these conversations quietly here, but I wonder when we become more public if we put ourselves at risk.
Nice observation about the way in which sharing ideas is a form of power that does carry levels of risk and levels of responsibility. Thank you so much, Silke, for and Christian, for organizing this dialogue today. This is our first pilot experience. So you guys, someday when this is normative and universities all over the world are talking cross-nationally about contemporary propaganda, we'll say, we were at the very first one. I give you a round of applause. Thank you for joining us today.
So
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Renee and Zoe and Mark, for joining us. And yeah, it would be wonderful if everybody is takes a little bit time to fill out like a little feedback questionnaire that we can learn a little bit more how to organize future sessions. And thank you so much, Renee, for really your last question, so we could sum up, you know, how our intellectual curiosity was raised and how the context plays a role in the discussion. So I could think of many more of these inspiring conferences. And thank you so much for taking the time. It was really wonderful, a great pleasure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to further activities.